I remember the day everything changed for Kiki. It was a bright, sunny afternoon in the bustling city of Lagos when we discovered her secret. Kiki was just a simple girl with a strange gift. Whatever she painted came to life. But it wasn't always a blessing. That day, her canvas showed something dark, something that should never have been released. And from that moment on, life for everyone in our community would never be the same. Kiki was a quiet girl who lived in a small apartment with her mother, Madam Stella. Madam Stella worked hard as a market woman, selling fruits and vegetables at the local market to provide for Kiki. Kiki was different from the other kids. She didn't have many friends, and she preferred to spend her time alone, sketching and painting on pieces of cardboard she found around the neighborhood. I met Kiki when she moved into our building 2 years ago. We quickly became friends because we both loved art. I would often sit with her and watch her paint. She painted beautiful things, flowers, animals, and sometimes even people. She always told me she painted what she saw in her dreams, but I never realized just how real those dreams were until that day. But Kiki's paintings were no ordinary art. She had a secret that only I, her closest friend Alex, knew. Kiki's paintings could come to life. She first discovered this strange power when she painted a small bird on her wall. Moments later, a real bird flew out of the painting and perched on her shoulder, singing a beautiful song. She was amazed, but also scared of what she could do. One afternoon, Kiki was painting as usual. She had a strange look on her face, a look I hadn't seen before. Her hand moved fast across the canvas, almost as if something was guiding it. When she finally stepped back, I saw it. A dark, shadowy figure standing in the middle of a forest. Its eyes were glowing red, and its hands reached out as if it was trying to grab something. "What is that?" I asked, feeling a shiver run down my spine. I don't know," she replied, her voice trembling. "I've never painted anything like this before." Just then, the painting began to glow. The dark figure started moving, its eyes glowing even brighter. Before we could react, the figure leapt out of the painting and into the room. We both screamed and stumbled back, knocking over the paint and brushes. The figure stood there, looking at us with its piercing red eyes. It was tall and thin, with long arms that seemed to stretch on forever. It didn't say a word, but we could feel its cold, dark presence filling the room. Kiki grabbed my hand, and we ran out of the apartment as fast as we could. We couldn't tell Madame Grace because she wouldn't believe us. We couldn't tell anyone because they would think we were crazy. So, we decided to go to the one person we thought could help, Chief Priest, the old wise man who lived at the edge of the market. He was known for his knowledge of the ancient ways and his ability to see things others couldn't. When we arrived at Chief Priest's small, dusty shop, he was sitting outside, smoking a long pipe. He looked up as we approached and smiled. "Kiki and Alex, what brings you here today?" he asked, his voice deep and calm. I looked at Kiki, who nodded, and I began to tell Chief Priest everything. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he stood up and walked over to Kiki, placing a hand on her head. "You have a great gift, child," he said softly. "But with great power comes great responsibility. The figure you saw is a spirit from the other side, a dark spirit that feeds on fear and pain. It was drawn to you because of your gift. What do we do, Chief?" Kiki asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You must paint it back," he said. "Paint it back into the canvas and seal it with your blood. It is the only way to trap it and send it back where it came from." We nodded, and Chief Priest gave us a small knife. "Be careful, Kiki," he warned. "The spirit will try to trick you to make you doubt yourself. But you must be strong. Do not let it escape." We hurried back to the apartment, my heart pounding in my chest. The figure was still there, lurking in the shadows. Kiki grabbed her paintbrush and started painting, her hands shaking. The figure moved closer, whispering strange words in a language we couldn't understand. I held my breath, praying that Kiki would finish before it was too late. Just as she was about to complete the painting, the figure lunged at her. Kiki cried out, dropping the brush. I grabbed the knife and sliced my palm, letting the blood drip onto the canvas. The figure let out a horrible scream and was sucked back into the painting, disappearing in a flash of light. We collapsed on the floor, exhausted and scared. The painting was still there, but the figure was gone. We had done it. We had trapped it. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. That there were other spirits out there, waiting to be painted, waiting to be released. Kiki looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. "What have I done, Alex?" she whispered. "I don't know," I replied. "But whatever it is, we'll face it together." We decided to keep the painting, to remind us of what we had done and what we had to do. But deep down, I knew that this was far from over. That Kiki's gift was a blessing and a curse. The days that followed were quiet but tense. Kiki tried to stop painting, but it was as if something inside her refused to let go of her gift. She would find herself awake at night staring at blank canvases, her fingers itching to create. I stayed with her as much as I could, hoping to keep her from drawing anything else that might bring more trouble. But one evening, as the sun was setting and the city was bathed in an orange glow, she couldn't resist the urge anymore. "Mary, are you sure you want to do this?" I asked, watching her set up her paints. "What if something worse comes out this time?" She looked at me, her eyes tired and sad. "I can't help it, Alex. It's like something is calling to me, begging to be painted. I feel like I have no choice." I wanted to tell her to stop, to throw away the paint and forget about her strange powers. But I knew that wouldn't help. Kiki's gift was a part of her, and denying it would only make things worse. So, I stayed by her side as she picked up the brush and began to paint. This time, the image that appeared on the canvas was different. It was a beautiful garden filled with bright flowers and tall trees. In the middle of the garden stood a woman with long, flowing hair and a kind smile. She wore a bright yellow dress that seemed to shimmer in the light. As Kiki painted, I could feel a sense of peace filling the room, pushing away the fear that had been there for days. When she finished, Kiki stepped back, and we both stared at the painting. "It's beautiful," I said softly, amazed by the detail and color. But before we could say anything else, the painting began to glow, just like before. I held my breath, waiting for something to happen. Slowly, the woman in the painting stepped out, her feet touching the floor softly as if she was walking on air. She looked at us and smiled, and I felt a warmth spread through my chest, easing my worries. "Do not be afraid," the woman said in a gentle voice. "I am not here to harm you." "Who are you?" Kiki asked, her voice shaking a little. "My name is Comfort," the woman replied. "I am a spirit of light, drawn here by your gift. I have come to help you understand your power and guide you on your path." We listened as Comfort explained that Kiki's ability to paint things to life was a rare gift, one that had been passed down through generations. She was a seer, someone who could see beyond the physical world and bring what she saw into reality through her art. But with such a gift came great responsibility. There were spirits of light, like Comfort, and there were spirits of darkness, like the figure Kiki had painted before. Both were drawn to her because of her power, and both could be dangerous if not controlled. "You must learn to control your gift, Kiki," Comfort said. "You must learn to see with your heart and paint with your soul. Only then can you choose what you bring to life and what you leave in the shadows." Kiki nodded, her eyes wide with understanding. "But how do I do that?" she asked. "You must practice," Comfort replied. "And I will help you. But you must promise me one thing: you must never paint when you are angry or afraid. Emotions can cloud your vision and bring forth things you cannot control." Kiki promised, and from that day on, she and I began to learn from Comfort. She taught us about the spirit world, about light and darkness, and about the power of creation. Kiki practiced every day, painting beautiful things that brought joy and peace to our small apartment. I watched in awe as her talent grew. and I knew that she was destined for something great. It lingered in the back of our minds, a constant reminder of the dangers of Kiki's gift. And then, one day, as we were practicing, a strange thing happened. Kiki was painting a picture of the city at night with twinkling lights and tall buildings. She was focused, her brush moving swiftly across the canvas. But as she painted, her hand slipped, and a thick line of black paint streaked across the sky. She gasped, her eyes widening in shock. Before she could fix it, the painting began to glow. We both stepped back, fear gripping our hearts. Comfort appeared beside us, her face serious. "This is not good," she said quietly. "Something dark is coming." We watched as the black paint spread across the canvas, covering the city in darkness. From the shadows, a pair of glowing red eyes appeared, followed by a sinister smile. It was the same figure from before, but this time, it wasn't alone. More figures began to emerge from the darkness, each one more terrifying than the last. They were spirits of darkness, drawn to Kiki's power, hungry for the light she carried within her. Kiki grabbed her brush and tried to paint over the darkness, but it was too late. The figures had already stepped out of the canvas, filling the room with their cold, dark presence. We backed away, our hearts pounding in our chests. The spirits moved slowly, their eyes fixed on Kiki. I could feel their hunger, their desire to consume the light she held. We ran down the stairs and into the street, not stopping until we reached Chief Priest's shop. He was outside, as always, smoking his pipe. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. "They are back," I cried. "The spirits. They are coming for Kiki." Chief Priest's face grew serious. "This is worse than I thought," he said. "We must act quickly." Chief Priest placed a hand on her shoulder. "You must trust yourself, Kiki. Trust in your gift. You have the power to stop them, but only if you believe in yourself." Kiki nodded, wiping away her tears. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes, focusing on the light within her. I watched as her hands began to glow, a soft, golden light spreading from her fingertips. She reached out and touched the ground, her hands moving in a fluid motion as if she was painting on the earth itself. The light grew brighter, spreading out in all directions, surrounding us in a warm, comforting glow. The spirits stopped, their eyes narrowing in confusion. Kiki opened her eyes and stood tall, her face calm and determined. "You will not take my light," she said firmly. "I am not afraid of you." With a swift motion, she raised her hands, and the light exploded outward, washing over the spirits. They screamed, their bodies dissolving into the air, leaving behind nothing but a faint whisper. When it was over, Kiki collapsed to the ground, exhausted but smiling. Chief Priest helped her up, his eyes filled with pride. "You did it, Kiki," he said softly. "You faced your fears and used your gift to save us all." Kiki nodded, her eyes shining with tears. "Thank you, Chief," she said. "And thank you, Alex. I couldn't have done it without you." I smiled and hugged her tightly. "I'm just glad you're okay. You're stronger than you know." As we walked back to the apartment, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. But I knew that this was just the beginning. Kiki's journey was far from over, and there would be more challenges ahead. But with her gift and her courage, I knew she could face anything that came her way. And as for me, I would be